1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I can see why it gets to you so much. Mog the other twin.
Hello, viewership, and with that, maybe we're back, maybe we're not. But look at this monstrosity. Like, what can men do against such reckless, swollen hate? Jesus. Like, where in the realm of Mordor is like Sauron getting so many anabolic steroids to pump into this abomination? Fucking hell!
I enjoy that his bodyguard though now is Ratbag the Coward, who's our man on the inside.
Yeah, like this is very, very cool. We were just talking about this off camera, but neither of us played this game on release, and like I
did, but I not successfully, as discussed.
Well, I only had, when the time this game came out, I only had an Xbox 360, and this game was released for the 360, as we've just checked. But the 360 wasn't powerful enough to run like the Nemesis System, making this game all but redundant, really.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole selling point, is that like, it has this system that had never really been used in a AAA title before, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, so I
think it needed a lot of like memory to actually be able to keep track of how much stuff you did. It needs to be able to have a game, a significant portion of which can basically be regenerated on the fly based on what you do.
Yeah.
And the 360 just couldn't hack that, and people basically said it just doesn't play right because it's clear that the game is oriented around that kind of being its thing. I
really like that. That's a core mechanic that informs the whole of the game. That's a really, really good design feature. I'm impressed with this game so far. And yeah,
it's nice that while obviously the main plot is you know,
oh, make it go away, Doctor, please, come on.
Oh, that the plan of this whole mission is to make it go away. Don't worry.
Are we trying to fight him right off? Like,
yes. Well, I'm gonna try it. Let's see what happens.
Oh, that he's hung. Oh, there's Ratbag again.
Yep. Yeah, I like how, you know, the main strokes of the main story are all going to be kind of similar, but the side missions and what fits around that are generated by your own gameplay experiences, and that's a very cool balance to strike between them.
It's very cool. It feels like it's very Dungeons and Dragons in that, like, it feels like this is the kind of thing that would have been engineered by an intelligent dungeon master directing a plot, but it's all done via AI, of course.
Yeah. And I guess you've just got to do stuff like you've got to make sure that you either have got a backstory for every random orc, or you've got a pool of backstories you can just pull from, and the moment one of them kills the protagonist, you roll the dice and say, hey, well, it turns out this man is Guthrak the Dick Puncher, or whatever the fuck, I don't know.
Speaking of Dungeons & Dragons viewership, if you haven't already, if you like this content and you like Lord of the Rings, odds are you probably like our Dungeons & Dragons series. So, Infamous Gentlemen play D&D. We spent a lot of time on it. It's actually pretty fucking good. We're very pleased with it. Go back and give it a go. It's actually pretty rad.
I'm going to go kill him! Good plan! I'll be right behind you.
Sorry, I was laughing at the content of the game, not at your pitch, which is actually pretty good.
Oh no, I mean, obviously I think... Is he going to get promoted again for killing this
The plan is
guy?
to make him War Chief, and then we've got someone in the Black Hands, Black Council, or whatever it's called.
Oh, right, okay, so like, what, okay.
Well, we'll see how the War
We're basically killing our way to get Ratbag into the position that lets us go after the Black Hand.
Yes. Because if we look at Sauron's forces, so these guys are like the head
honchos.
They are personally known to Sauron and the Black Hand, we know.
And we've got to murder our way to them, basically.
Yeah, and certainly the goal of this one is, you know, kill the other twin, and we're basically going to get... The game has warned me, by the way, you'll be fucking noticed when you do this.
Alright, do you want a side hustle on this mission, Doctor?
Go on.
Oh, you love a side hustle, don't you? I'll wager you one shot that you fail doing this. I don't like betting against you, but just to make it interesting.
Yep, sounds good. We'll go for it.
Now,
and I'm going to try and play normally. I'm not going to suddenly play like a really careful Jebby Bellend. No, you've said that.
I think you're sufficiently bebbed that like tactical acumen went out the window some time ago. So
yeah, you're probably right there.
You fight those orcs, motherfucker.
Oh,
you got
shit.
this.
No, it's not going great already. Oh, piss nuts. Oh,
this feels weird to be watching some Lord of the Rings content, but like to be rooting for the orcs. Looks like meat's back in the menu, boys. Get 'em, boys.
Sparta kicked that guy at least.
This is Sparta.
So they say.
Now, a nice segue back into Lord of the Rings conversation. David Wenham, the man who plays Faramir, a man who is beloved by the sprite, who I know is editing this, but who is
yeah. If you realise if you talk shit about Faramir, she will cut this whole section.
I'm not going to talk shit about Faramir. I'm going to talk about David Wenham because he also appears in the movie 300.
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's one of the Spartans. He's one of the less jacked Spartans.
Because it's David Wenham.
Because I'm guessing that David Wenham was just unwilling to spend 6 months of his life getting shredded to be in a movie. But they try really hard. And he's got one of these brilliant lines in the movie 300 where King Leonidas turns to him and says, has your wound made you useless? And he goes, no, my lord, it's just an eye. And you're like, oh yeah, cool. I don't know how you can continue to serve on the battlefield with no fucking depth perception, but carry on, David Wenham.
God, speaking of 300, I had a... Have you ever watched the film, I think it's from the early-ish 2000s, of The Phantom of the Opera?
With Gerard Butler.
Bafflingly has Gerard Butler as the Phantom of the Opera.
He's got a good voice.
Yeah, so the sprite was oh, guess who that is playing the Phantom? I was like, it looks right, but I was like, I early on I was like, well, it kind of seems like it might be Gerard Butler, but I ruled it out because he's not a singer. And I was correct. Gerard Butler was not a trained singer. The first singing he did basically was in the audition for the Phantom of the Opera. And he's got a bloody good voice. You're right.
He's pretty good. See also the movie. I hate the movie, by the way, for reasons that we'll discuss maybe if you're interested. But the movie P.S. I Love You.
Not seen.
You shouldn't, for reasons that I'll talk about in a moment. But in that movie, he sings a version of Mustang Sally. It's fucking great.
Yeah, he's got a genuinely good voice. Did you also know he's got a law degree?
Yes, I'm about to talk about this. So Gerard Butler graduated from the same university as we did, the University of Glasgow.
Yeah.
And he graduated in the same class as Nicola Sturgeon, the current First Minister of
Holy
Scotland.
Shit.
Yeah, there's every chance that Gerard Butler and the current leader of Scotland went to the pub together, which I think is tremendous.
That is wild.
Do you know why he stopped being a lawyer?
Drinking too much or something like that, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. So he kept turning
I
up
read
drunk.
this up because I was just basically I was desperately looking to see there must be some kind of theatrical or singing training in his background because he's really okay, in some ways the songs in The Phantom of the Opera are not difficult in a sense of oh no, here he is.
Oh, Dwayne the Rock Johnson coming in.
Dwayne the other twin.
Oh, can you smell it, Doctor?
Fire.
Can you smell it?
Oh, target found. Thanks, game. I hadn't fucking realised with the intro.
There's absolutely
that was a fucking WWE intro right there. Anyway,
it was really good. That was an entrance video. I love it. That's not The Rock, but that's
I know that's John Cena.
I'm actually.
I don't know what The Rock's theme tune is. I never actually watched wrestling. I only know wrestling through memes.
I did used to watch wrestling, so my friends, my home buddies, we had a great tradition that every year when the Royal Rumble was on, we would pay to watch the Royal Rumble, and it's some of the best nights of my life watching the WWE Royal Rumble. I do think that Dwayne the Rock Orc is gonna fuck you up here.
I was doing all right for a moment, but yeah, I think so. I had a really interesting thing recently when I was watching a thing about the background of wrestling. It was basically two guys, one of whom had no experience with wrestling and one of whom was really fucking into wrestling, actually learning to wrestle. And it was really interesting because it's oh shit. It was basically, there was a lot of different stuff going on. Some of it was okay, here's how to make it look like you're getting hit in the face and not get hit in the face. There's the ability we bought earlier, by the way.
That was really cool that came
actually turn that back on his ass, yeah. But yeah, a huge part of it was, actually the physicality of learning how to wrestle. But a big part of it is what's a compelling story? How do we build a narrative? That kind of stuff. And seeing what goes into that was all really interesting. And then at the end, they do a wrestling match against a professional team. And none of what led to that point made that final bit any more interesting, unfortunately.
Oh.
I think we may have been fucked. Yep, you're right.
I think you owe me a shot, Doctor.
I do. Sprite, you there? Can you bring me up a shot of Cointreau?
Oh, the Cointreau Goblin!
Thank you! Yep, there we go.
Now, because I'm a gracious and generous man, I happen to have here, I'll do one with you, because I happen to have a bottle of Terramana, the Rock's own tequila, and what could be more fitting than that?
That's fair. Yeah.
I do not understand what has happened to me.
But yeah, like this thing of watching these guys learn to wrestle was really interesting because like when they were coming up with characters initially, like one of them was like, "Well, I'm gonna be a heel. It's fun to be a villain," and the people who were teaching them basically said, "You can't do that." Basically, in any given bout, the heels are like the bad guys. For those who don't know, basically are almost always by a huge margin the more experienced wrestlers.
Oh,
because basically it's the heels that kind of determine the flow of the narrative more.
okay.
And
I do know they tried several times, like to give popular examples of this, they tried to make Dwayne the Rock Johnson and Hollywood Hulk Hogan villains in various stages in their careers, and it didn't work because they were so overwhelmingly popular, everyone just rooted for them anyway.
Dwayne Johnson and like John Cena had like they started off as like they've had whole like arcs where they go evil and then go back again and stuff like that, but hitting someone and stuff like that, and basically the flow of like the narrative like within a wrestling match tends to be just driven by the more experienced wrestlers, and it works well for narrative terms if that they also be the villains.
Yeah, I can see that. Like,
so usually when you see the heels, they're the experienced wrestler. Let's check it.
I really like wrestling. I enjoy it. Like, I like the theatricality. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's not real." Of course, it's not.
Redneck
of course, it's
anime.
not goddamn real.
It's the best way I've heard it described ever.
It's like watching like a really gifted set of stuntmen just do their thing, because like, the athleticism is so impressive.
That was the thing, is especially like watching these guys, learn to wrestle, is that obviously wrestling is, in inverted commas, fake in the sense of what you see isn't what you're seeing, but it's still fucking hard. Like it's there's probably more skill.
They get hurt. They really get hurt. Having like a 300-pound man pick you up in the air and throw you hurts. That really hurts.
There's probably more skill in doing Oh god. There's more skill in wrestling and not being hurt, and it being fake is probably harder than if it were real. If it were just guys wailing on each other with chairs, that would probably be actually less skillful than what's actually going on.
Yeah, I really admire them. In particular, like I like Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Like he's a movie star. I like his films, etc., etc.
Do you know about his dad as well?
Yeah,
his dad was like an old school like Pacific Islands wrestler.
Yeah, so I think The Rock is the first ever third generation professional wrestler.
Yeah.
I think he's descended, I think it's either through his old man or his father-in-law, but he's descended almost directly from a line of Samoan chiefs, or Hawaiian chiefs, which is fucking rad. But like, this is the man that we got out of that story, which is great.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, because like, I saw it was have you seen Moana?
I have seen Moana.
Yeah,
I love Moana.
It was someone talking about that and saying like, oh, it's weird how they've given like Maui like a dad bod, and someone pointed out quite accurately, they were like, it's not a dad bod. Like most like serious like Samoan wrestlers will have that physique of like being big. It's like what we think of as like the ripped physique is like a modern thing, and like that's for like competitions and stuff like that. If you see strong men, they all look basically obese. Like they don't look what we'd consider like, ripped. They look just massive, because it's about, bulk and mass as much as it's about like looking defined. And in a lot of ways, like you always hear stories of like strong men, like bodybuilders before competitions and stuff like that they basically essentially
cut weight.
They dehydrate themselves and stuff like that to make muscles pop more and look more veiny, but they're essentially, it's really unhealthy, and most bodybuilders are not necessarily that like strong when it comes to actually, fighting a man.
It just looks really... It's all about statics for bodybuilding. Like, I do know that, like, from very personal experience, like, I like personal fitness. I've always exercised. I've never in my adult life not exercised. Like, I've got plenty of friends, though, who are just big guys that I've been to the gym with. So, like, people who don't exercise regularly, they don't run, they don't take care of themselves necessarily, but they can lift a lot more than I can when we go to the gym, just because, like, they're big dudes, big, strong men. And like some of that is just like the mass that I've got to shove around is more equal to the mass that I'm trying to lift relative to a skinny bastard like me.
I've always thought this would be a really interesting thing, like comparing like you and I. So for those who don't know, which is basically everyone, the Bard and I are very similar body type. We're about the same height and we're about the same build. But you do a fucking shit ton of, like, you do a load of running, a load of, like, gym stuff, whereas I do not. I'm basically just kind of genetically like this.
Apparently that's a thing in and of itself, though. I've read several quote-unquote lifestyle or dieting books where they're like, thin people tend never to have to worry about their weight, either because they're just blessed with a good metabolism, or they're people who they just don't...
See, I'm blessed with an incredible ability to... And I know you don't have this. I have an incredible ability to just ignore being hungry.
Oh, I can't do that.
So it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for me to go like most of a day sometimes, especially if I'm busy or interested in doing something else. I'll go a whole day without eating, really. And I'll be like, "Why am I hungry?" It's like, "Oh yeah, because I haven't eaten since 6 a.m." Whereas you're a hungry man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, by the way, is that the shot of Contro rifle yet, Doctor?
It is, yes. The sprite has brought it for me, so there we go, right.
Well.
Chin Chin. You won't hear this because I've got noise cancelling going to the bard, but not to the actual microphone, so...
Cheers, Doctor.
That was the Emperor and some Contro, so there we go. I was wrong.
And I have done some Terramana, the Rock's own tequila, appropriate for Dwayne the Orc
Oh, fuck me. Cointreau is such an interesting one to shot, because it's like, initially it's really nice, like, this is just orange. And then you remember, I always think, because of how, like, flavoursome it is, that Cointreau is not that strong, that it's like a liqueur. No, it's the full 40%. It's a full-strength spirit, but that just has more flavour than, a cheap vodka or something like that.
Cointreau is a risky game. Now, Doctor, watch as I'm gonna seamlessly transition back to the Lord of the Rings chat here. You ready for this?
Go for it.
So, we spoke about like wrestlers being like stuntmen. Now, I remember there's a very poignant bit of like behind-the-scenes footage from the Return of the King video game. So, like, very much a precursor to this game,
which is also findable on The Infamous Gentleman if anyone wants to watch it.
Yeah, please do. Like,
me and the boy did a whole video, and again, that was one of those ones where we learned this is not a good game. Unfortunately,
no.
It's very hard, and it has a bad checkpointing system that's punishing unnecessarily so.
But there's a lot of good behind-the-scenes content that you can unlock as you play that game. Not least of all is where Elijah Wood, who's a huge gamer apparently, he loves his video games. He talks a lot about like how the video game is in a way superior to the film. Oh, what the? Why is there a Rancor here? What the fuck is this? Wow, we're in Jabba's palace. Who is this guy?
A Graug is what he is.
No, what? A fucking what?
Then we must find another way.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry. Like, no. Like, we'll come back to Elijah Wood and his love of video games and that. What the hell is this thing?
It's a Graug.
Charging for the case,
That doesn't help me.
A well-placed arrow will do the
We can't fight it, though. The game is explicitly saying, make a distraction. You cannot fight this thing.
Oh no, we shouldn't fight.
Like, it's giving me a countdown until it comes back and fucks me up, so...
Like, Doctor, I think you actually know more about Lord of the Rings than I do. Or at least, like, you know more about, like, the lore of Lord of the Rings.
I've never heard of it as a thing. A Graug.
What is a... tell you what, while you're doing the
I'm in no way going to rule out this is something Tolkien wrote a paragraph about at some point. I've never heard of it.
I'm going to look up what a Graug is, because like if you know what this is, I'm very impressed. But like I have no idea. I spent.
I mean, there's a lot of
years of my life.
There's a lot of
Lord
fucking weird beasts of Morgoth thrown around in the First Age and whatnot. See, Balrogs and shit like that.
Well, here we go. So like I'm on, which is actually a really good and well-maintained fan wiki. So I recommend it to viewerships who enjoy Lord of the Rings. The one wiki to rule them all.
Yeah, it's very well done.
Basically, like, it collates lots of Tolkien's notes and speculation and like stuff from the Silmarillion into like an actual navigatable, readable form.
Yeah.
Now, according to this Wikipedia page, or the one wiki to rule them all, Graugs were massive two-legged beasts that roamed the land of Mordor and were specifically known to dwell in Nirn, Gorgoroth, and Saragost.
We are in Gorgoroth.
The creature.
So it makes sense.
Oh, here we go. The creature is non-canonical, appearing only in Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. So they're created for this game. So I'm calling bullshit on this in the first instance.
I mean, as is the one wiki to rule them all, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is the first actual canonical
the players of
departure. Celebrimbor used these to pluck out his bad teeth.
It's cool seeing Anatar as well, as in Sauron's beautiful form.
I know that
Fulgrim,
you can maybe,
basically.
I mean, he is very pretty. You can tell us more about this, Doctor, because you know more about the Elder Days. But I know that after the fall of Numenor, Sauron was still in Numenor when it fell. I know that after the fall, he could no longer assume his fair deceiver shape.
Yeah. That was what made him quite unusual. So basically, the Valar are like the actual gods, and the Maiar are the servants of the gods. Technically, Gandalf is also, in some forms, is a Maiar. So Gandalf is the same class as Sauron, arguably. I was thinking Celebrimbor forging rings here. That's cool.
That is really cool, actually. I mean, these cutscenes are gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh, we've actually learned who he is now, yeah.
There's the line for like all the fans.
Yeah. But yeah, so...
Hang on, Doctor, if you listen closely, you'll hear 10,000 nerds come in unison.